evening, everybody. How you doing tonight? My name is Scott Brown, and welcome to night number 4 of the 365-day live video challenge. And also, what will end up being vlog entry number 4 in my new vlog called Chasing Rabbits. And yeah, we'll get into why it's called Chasing Rabbits down the road a ways, but tonight we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics in the world, one of my favorite things in all of the things that I study. This is the one thing that just captures my imagination more than anything else. But let's backtrack just a bit first. The past couple nights, we talked about the question, what if? And that question, what if, that allows you to embrace possibility and embrace curiosity so greatly is paramount to having a new mindset and seeking out the possibility that maybe you don't know everything. Maybe there are other answers out there to questions you've never even thought of. That's why I love the question, what if? But that question, what if, really brought into light this topic that I'm so passionate about and have been for a number of years now. Probably about 3 years now, actually. So it was, I think, January of 2018. My wife and I were living in a hotel at the time, in between when we sold our townhouse and when we were buying our house in Florida that we were getting built. And I remember walking towards a parking garage, listening to YouTube at one point, and I heard something from Simon Sinek, and he came on, he was talking about this new thing that he was really passionate about, and it was called game theory. And I stopped for a minute, and I said, oh, I understand, I know what game theory is. It's a mathematical theory. It's all about modeling and probabilities and prediction indexes, and it's a mathematical theory. And I started talking about his interpretation of game theory, and I thought, that's very interesting, because that's not the way I interpret game theory or what I know about game theory. So if you don't know anything about game theory, let me give you a really brief introduction for what game theory is. There are 5 well-known game theories that are out there, and they all break down kind of an either-or scenario for how we play games in life and business and science and math and all those things. They're all built upon mathematical models. First one you have is cooperative games versus non-cooperative games. Cooperative games are games where you're forced to cooperate with someone, usually through some sort of a contract or binding agreement. And non-cooperative games are those games where you're not bound together and the decisions that you make are more based on alliances. Think Big Brother. Big Brother is a great example of a non-cooperative game. You might be playing with somebody, but you're also playing against them at the same time. The second kind of game theory out there are symmetrical games versus asymmetrical games. Symmetrical games mean that you're going to have the same theory no matter who is playing the game. Asymmetrical games mean that you're going to have a strategy that benefits you depending upon what else is happening in the game. So your moves are not symmetrical based upon previous strategy. The third kind of game theory that's out there is zero-sum versus non-zero-sum games. Now we all know what zero-sum games are. Those are the games that you have a winner and a loser. You have to have one of each, like football and baseball and basketball. They're all zero-sum games. You have to have somebody wins and somebody loses. But in life, the majority of games that we end up playing in life are thought to be non-zero-sum games, where you don't have a stalemate there. You don't have an equilibrium. You might have a win-win scenario or a lose-lose scenario, depending upon what kind of game you're playing. The fourth kind of game are simultaneous games versus sequential games. Simultaneous games are when the players are making the move at the same time. Think about rock, paper, scissors. Rock, paper, scissors, go. That's a simultaneous game. You're doing stuff at the same time. Sequential games are when you're doing something one at another time. Checkers, chess, poker. Those are all sequential games. Something has to happen before you can go and something else happens. And then lastly, you have discrete games versus continuous games. Discrete games have a finite timeline. They exist for a certain amount of time. Again, basketball is a great example. It's going to be played for a certain amount of time. And then continuous games that stretch on regardless of the amount of time. You don't know who's going to be in the game. It's going to stretch long before you were here and continue long after you were gone. Those are the 5 big types of games that are out there. They're all based on mathematical principles, mathematical models. A lot of them are based upon Nash's equilibrium, which talks about you're going to keep making choices until everyone has reached the best possible outcome, and nobody's going to do anything different to get out of that equilibrium because everyone's going to get the best result possible. The prisoner's dilemma is a great example of where Nash's equilibrium really plays out, which is a non-cooperative game. So those are kind of the games that are out there. Well, I heard Simon Sinek talking about game theory, and he started talking about a whole different type of game. And he wrote a book recently about it. It's called The Infinite Game. And the infinite game, he says, are broken down into two types of games: infinite games and non-infinite games, and infinite games and finite games. But they're very similar the way he breaks them down into discrete and continuous games, which are really based upon mathematical models. But he's applying that mathematical model outside of the world of math and towards the world in general: business, life, all of those sorts of things. It got me thinking, what if we used the concept of game theory to talk about and think about life in general, business, relationships? Is it possible that there's a game that is not mathematically driven, but more is anthropologically driven, based upon our desire to survive and thrive as a species? I think there is. And that's why I'm so excited about this, because I've come up with a different type of theory. See, when I was growing up, I always thought that there were just two kinds of games. I always thought that games were something you either won or you lost. That every game was a zero-sum type game. And I learned that from my family, of all places. My dad's mom wasn't a big fan of my mom. There was no secret. They did not like each other one bit. The families did not get along at all. And my grandmother, one time when I was about 15 or 16, she told me, "Scott, in life, you're going to find out there are winners and losers. And you, my son, are not going to be a winner." And it was so hurtful at the time. And I felt that pain because I was told that in life I was going to compete, I was not going to be able to win, so I was going to have to lose. That's a horrible position to be put in and get that mindset when you're younger. But over time I learned that that's just complete malarkey. That's wrong. That's just not the truth. That's not how it works whatsoever. That there's more than one type of game out there. There are 5 mathematical games, plus I think there's this anthropological game that we can play. And I've come up with a theory that is based upon formal games and informal games. Formal games and informal games. And those are the two types of games that I think we play most in life. We play informal games the majority of life. They don't necessarily have set rules. We don't know who's part of the game, but there's definitely outcomes to those games. In the coming days, we're going to talk more about what informal games look like and what formal games look like, how we compete in both of them, how we use both of them, how they compare, and how they fit into our world as people. But know this, as you go forward in life, know that there are absolutely games out there that we're going to play that are mathematically driven. Advertising does a great job. Buying decisions are tracked based upon mathematical games. But it doesn't mean that life as a whole is. So the next time that somebody says that person's a loser or I'm always a winner, know that they're not, and that they're applying a theory that doesn't apply to life whatsoever. And over the next few days, we're going to get into that. But tonight, a little precursor to what games really are, why they're so exciting, and why I can't wait to get into these next couple of nights of what games really matter, formal games and informal games, as opposed to all of the mathematical games. So until tomorrow, I wish you all the best. Keep asking what if, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. What kind of games do you think you're playing, and how are you playing them? Until tomorrow, my friends, be well, and we will see you later. Take care, everybody.